coming from a place of, I'm a natural person, it's hard to swallow to go, oh, well, estrogen, that's a drug. But here's the thing, estrogen is naturally occurring in the human body. So it's not normal that we're living this long. So it's like, well, can we add back more estrogen to help us? And by the sounds of it, we can.
With age, we naturally have mild cognitive decline. That happens in everyone. And we're going to go through what that looks like. But there is a large percentage of the population now developing Alzheimer's, and we want to distinguish between the two. Mild cognitive decline happens to women, they often notice, and to men. But through the 40s, it starts as the hormones start to shift, and then definitely can kick in when estrogen levels drop off after menopause. So I think it's important to distinguish between mild cognitive decline and Alzheimer's, because not everybody just develops Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's is it's quite severe. So you might notice that you're kind of forgetting things, or forgetting a word here or there, or forgetting where you put your keys. And I think part of this might be just because of, being in the sandwich generation of taking care of parents and raising young children in some cases, and having so much on the go. Some people are saying, oh, I forget. Do you think I have Alzheimer's? And, they're in their 40s or early 50s. And, perhaps they're still menstruating, but their cycles have changed. And so hormones will be playing a role, but not just reproductive hormones, also kind of cortisol and stress hormones. So recognizing that, it's not just, the changing periods, but could be stress hormones, and that's suppressing their ability to stay in the prefrontal cortex, being able to focus and, follow through with things like, I put my keys here. They're thinking about a gazillion other things, like their kids, lunches, or the plans for the weekend, or when they're bringing their parents to their next doctor's appointment. So the mild cognitive decline could be forgetting things, missing appointments, losing your train of thought, but or even, in some cases having kind of like less poor judgment or brain fog. But when it starts to get more severe, you're literally, like in my mother's case, you perhaps are, forgetting how to do things that you used to be able to do, like dress yourself, I remember her putting on her shirt as though it was a dress, or, thinking that all streets run north, or how to cook with a pot instead she was using a bowl. So things like that, it's like a lot more serious when things like that start showing up. So I think it's important to recognize that mild cognitive decline happens in everybody, but the more severe Alzheimer's, there are screens for the mini mental status exam that you can do with, a family doctor. And usually it's, parents or a relative that's kind of recognizing that and bringing you to the doctor's office to have that screen. But, as we are going, there are things that you can do to prevent developing the mild cognitive decline. And we're going to go through some of those things, like I think the number one would be moving regularly, right? So to keep circulation going. And then I was talking about stress hormones, like what are some things? Like, to me, some obvious things would be like slowing down as we're going through kind of the perimenopausal, or in men's cases, andropausal time, and going for treatments like acupuncture and massage and things that can help you ground yourself more as we are in this more sandwich generation. Mary, what would you suggest in terms of, besides like the big ones, or maybe people don't know the impact of exercise and dropping cortisol? Like, is there anything that comes to your mind for stress management in these cases? And would you not agree that a lot of it is like just that we are in such a crazy busy go society, as to while we might notice this mild cognitive decline more?
Yeah, I think it becomes more prevalent as we age, for sure. And for myself, it's like maybe when you're 20, you can have like 5 things or whatever, and you do it kind of well. But when you're older and you're trying to actually juggle now 10, 20 things, it's like it just doesn't go so well, right? Because there's so many balls in the air, and life gets more complicated as we get older, because as you had mentioned and alluded to, your parents may be getting older and you have to help there. And the truth is, people are having or delaying having children more and more. So by the time you actually have a kid, you're totally in that sandwich generation. You may be in perimenopause, dealing with a toddler and navigating work and elderly parents or deceased parents, like just so much complication that no wonder it's hard to use all your capacity through your frontal lobe. Like it's just overwhelming. It's just too much. So then it's one of the strategy. It's like, instead of tackling on or looking at what more can I do, it's actually more like, okay, what can I take off my plate? What do I not really need to be doing right now? Right? Because I think we forget, because we just want to add more to our list. And you just got to know that whatever you stick on your journal for your day, like, be okay that you may not get all the things done on your list, or be okay that just one thing gets done through the list and celebrate that, versus then beating ourselves up saying, oh my gosh, I'm not able to get as much done as I used to because things take longer. And because when we beat ourselves up emotionally and psychologically, that is energy consumption. And we don't want that. We only have so much energy that we're born with, and it's going to start to decline over the years. And we don't want to get that pilot light to shut off prematurely. So it's, being kind to yourself, doing things of self-care that will help. And literally, I mean, one of the things that we know, when you have a cell phone, you turn it off or you power it down, or you just actually have to plug it into a wall and charge it. So how much
Good
are
analogy.
you doing that for yourself? Are you plugging yourself somewhere and like leaving it quiet? Most people don't. So what can you do that has you do that for yourself? How can you regenerate and shut down that pause? And I don't know about you, but I get time and time again. And you know what? I find myself doing that. Sometimes I'll catch myself and go, oh, that's my bad. Meaning, when we sit and pause, sometimes there's a self-judgment of, oh, well, I'm not being productive. And that's a mindset. And we need to shift that mindset to, this is the most productive pause I'm going to take, because when I refresh, I can take charge and I can be more vital and, face things more focused with more energy.
Right. I love your analogy to unplug and recharge. Like, it makes so much sense. Arianna Huffington, the author of, was it Thrive? What's the name of her book, where she talks primarily about sleep?
And the Sleep Revolution.
Yeah. Okay. Sleep Revolution.
Yeah.
So she probably was going through perimenopause, I'm guessing, when she ended up in a pool of blood on a table of her desk because she was just overworking and slept, and ended up in the emergency room, being told that everything was fine. She just needs to change her lifestyle and sleep more, because she was in just such a go mode. And then with her employees, she created sleep locations and times for them so that they could catch up with little naps as they needed to, because she really values sleep. I think sleep is one of the most important things that we can do more of, and stop kind of revering sleeping less as the cool thing to do. Like, I stayed up all night and worked, or I got up this early, and, rather than looking at it like that, just saying, okay, how did I make sure to protect my brain so it can age gracefully and, help support my ovaries and egg quality, as maybe you're not making a baby anymore, but to produce healthy hormones in your 40s and maybe early 50s, depending on when you go through menopause, to have better brain health, because your hormones impact your brain health, and your hormones come from your ovaries, and your egg quality matters in that. So it's not just about moving more and exercising to use up cortisol and getting more downtime. It's those all feed forward into better sleep. So if you're having difficulty sleeping, focusing on that as a treatment plan to help you, so that, as the worst time in my life, I feel like, in terms of sleep deprivation, was postpartum. And it's often when you are a little more forgetful and confused and forgetting things, right? Like, you're just a little bit overtired. And they say sleep deprivation is, used for torture. So trying to, get better sleep by, adding strength training in, because that's apparently better even than cardio to have deeper sleeps. And then hormone replacement therapy when in the earlier stages, if it's indicated for you as an individual, especially if, let's say, for example, your parents have had the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, you may want to consider estrogen replacement therapy if your ovaries have quietened and you are officially postmenopausal, and maybe you've even checked the ApoE4 gene and you found out that you have that positive, and that indicates that you have a higher risk of Alzheimer's. So then we're not just talking about mild cognitive decline, we're looking at preventing or delaying, let's say, onset of Alzheimer's. And it's not 100% if you have the ApoE4 genes that you're going to develop Alzheimer's. It's just a higher percentage chance. So you're looking at protecting your brain is in every way possible, looking at bigger factors like estrogen decline, making sure that you're making time for downtime, establishing your village like we talked about in another episode today, and getting support for better circulation and reduction in cortisol. And then what about nutrition? Have you heard of the term type 3 diabetes as another term for Alzheimer's? Have you ever heard of that,
Right.
Mary?
Well, I learned that from you a bunch of years ago in the beginning of COVID, and I love that. And it's so true because unfortunately, 1 in 3 Canadian are pre-diabetic, meaning that there's an imbalance with their insulin levels, with their blood sugar levels, and a lot of it, well, I don't know what the percentage is. It's like it can be controlled through our lifestyle, through our,
Right.
how we eat,
Oh,
what
for
we
sure.
eat, how we move,
Yeah.
and the sleep, all of that, those pillars of health. It's not rocket science. It's like just turning back to all those pillars of health that we need to take care of. And going back to what you mentioned about sleep, Arianna Huffington, prior to writing that book, she totally did not respect sleep. She just thought she was the martyr. She was like, oh, who needs sleep? I could get more done and be more productive. But we know now through research, it's actually the opposite is true. You need that better rest in order to have better brain function and focus so that you can crank out things in a shorter period of time. That's way more productive rather than banging your head and bleed yourself to death almost, right?
And
Passing
getting
out 'cause you're
feminine
overwhelmed.
burnout. Like feminine burnout is such a big thing nowadays because, we fought for equal rights, which is excellent. But then within that, we also end up doing more. We hunt, meaning like we work, and then, the masculine energies are high and we want to do and work harder and make equal, but then we have to remember that we're going through tons of changes, like as we transition in our 40s through to the menopause and then postmenopause. So I think bringing in more of those feminine energies and like doing less so that, we can support our egg quality through that time. Like I just can't stress that enough, like how important slowing down and going for treatments and relaxing and just having your village. Like I love what Sasha was saying.
Go back to that
you know what I mean?
episode, guys. Oh my gosh, it was so awesome.
Mhm.
And so let me speak to that because I love what you're saying about how we need to slow down. And it is so much based on our seasons of life. And we know, and it comes from stemming from Chinese medicine. We speak about, in the earlier years of our lives, we are more outwardly energetic. And that's yang, a male energy, right? The light, the sunshine. But as we get older, we need to honor the feminine energy when you're wanting to conceive and thereafter, because it's that feminine energy that brings us our longevity and our balance. And we need to go back to this because otherwise, again, our little pilot light's going to be snuffed out quickly if we don't honor our feminine internal energy, which is to be able to sit still. And as we sit still, it's like that battery for that cell phone. Like you need that battery to charge that cell phone, just as we need to quiet and sit in that space of quietude. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I was all about like getting more energy through going out. I was very social. And in my 50s, I'm like, definitely, it's like, I know that I recharge much better when I'm going outside by myself in nature, getting some sunshine, doing more quiet things. I don't work out like I used to. And that's another thing we need to address too. Like, yes, we all need to exercise, but as we age, we might do it a little differently. Instead of going 200% out, right now it's like 70%. It's like that tortoise and the hare, right? The hare is like, but the tortoise, the spry
the tortoise and
turtle,
the hare.
just kind of goes slowly and gets there.
Slow and steady. So Dr. Peter Attia in his book Outlive talks about how when you spend at least 3 days per week for about 45 minutes of time in zone 2, which is probably equivalent to like a moderate intensity level of cardio, you increase your health span by 10 years. He's like, there's no drug that replaces that, which is a pretty powerful statement in his book. And I agree. I think that level of moderate intensity will vary by the person. And I think that if you do that and maintain strength training as well or just even agility and balance exercises, if you're somebody who is really like into HIIT training and that was all you did, I think it's important that you bring in the calmer, slower strength training and the yoga for balance and agility, because you're more prone to injuries, and injuries will throw you off so you can't work out at all. So it's definitely, you need to bring in some more slow and balance. We've interviewed some people in previous episodes and they're still, doing half marathons or full marathons, and everybody has their own opinions on what's healthy. And I think listening to your body is key, going inward and figuring out what, that zone 2 looks like for you. And how can you incorporate strength training so that you stay strong and you don't get injured, let's say lifting something to put it to the top shelf, or, if you are stepping off a curve, you're not if you almost fall, you can catch yourself because you're working on the agility and balance exercises in addition to just, going for running or doing strength training. It's a combined effort, and all that will impact your brain health. I think at the end of the day, just moving like every single day would probably just be enough. Like if you, did walks every day for preventative medicine for brain health. They're in Dr. Abram Blooming's book, Estrogen Matters. He talks about how there is a 60% reduction in risk for Alzheimer's when women take estrogen. And it's not FDA approved for preventing Alzheimer's like it is, let's say, FDA approved for bone density and preventing hip fractures and such and osteoporosis. But estrogen can definitely delay Alzheimer's if you are a good candidate for estrogen replacement therapy in your menopausal years. And then it's only protective while you're on it. If you have gone through menopause and you're 10 years out from the last period, and let's say you have a risk for Alzheimer's in your family history, it might not be advisable to go on it because it can actually accelerate your risk for Alzheimer's. So if you went through menopause at 51 and you're now 61 and you're looking back and thinking, maybe I could prevent Alzheimer's, and I'm noticing that I'm forgetting a lot and my family's sending me to the doctor for, mental status exam, and wouldn't be the way you would go. You would be looking at all the other tools to prevent and delay. But if you're somebody who has a high risk, it might make sense. I mean, even cardiovascularly, right? Estrogen, like the number one reason why we die in North America as women is what? Do you know the biggest risk factor for death, Mary? And
well, I'm thinking it's actually hip fractures.
So it's heart attacks and strokes, but in seniors, I think it is like one of the like it's top for sure, top reason. So if we keep our arteries and heart healthy, that's huge in its impact for brain health and circulation.
No, absolutely. But they all kind of run together, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to add in, like, I love it that you brought the estrogen matters. And I do know that for sure, like, coming from a place of I'm a natural person, it's hard to swallow to go, oh, well, estrogen, that's a drug. But here's the thing, estrogen is naturally occurring in the human body. So it's not normal that we're living this long. So it's like, well, can we add back more estrogen to help us? And by the sounds of it, we can. So that all of this to say, though, it's not like you now just go out running and do this. So this is a podcast. This is a YouTube video that will guide you to a degree, but it's not medical information.
No.
It's not intended to. So you need to go seek the help of your medical advisor, naturopath like Tanya, who is actually an expert in menopause. So are you able to, I think, make requisitions with regards to those baseline blood work so you can suss out where they're at, right?
Yes. So if a woman has not had a period or is having gaps in periods, you can do blood work. If they're menstruating still and you do blood work, it might not be that helpful because you might not catch the window of kind of a perimenopausal cycle. Their hormones might look perfect and you don't want to dismiss that. But just recognizing that perimenopause can be 7 to 10 years before the last period, and then recognizing that if you are somebody who has high risk for Alzheimer's, dementia, that you would want to look closer to the last period in terms of initiating treatment for estrogen replacement therapy. You wouldn't want to delay treatment in the case of Alzheimer's prevention. Or if you're thinking about your parents, let's say your mom has, Alzheimer's, dementia diagnosed, you wouldn't be thinking to get her on estrogen. You'd be looking to yourself and saying, okay, what can I do to prevent it? And then obviously, so you have the energy and support, you can support her. So in addition to estrogen replacement therapy, exercise, regular exercise, and looking at nutrition, low glycemic index foods to prevent type 2 diabetes, because that can impact brain health. And we should also be looking at other natural approaches to improve memory and cognition. One being, actively using our brains more. So listening to podcasts, learning something new, playing new board games or, brain training games. I think you had mentioned that before when we were chatting about this, Mary, where there's some things that you had kind of come across around kind of cognitive function training.
Well, there are actual brain training games and tests that are out there that people can utilize. And there's no definitive answer as to that's going to help or not. But really, honestly, I think it's very helpful. It's like exercising. If you don't exercise, you're going to start to lose it, right? So I think it's important to do those kinds, like Sudoku and crossword puzzles and memory games, anything, right? That I think that can be helpful. And then also when it comes to the mind, it's how do we relieve our stress, even mental, emotionally, because that can occupy space and impact our well-being in our mind function. There's only so much energy in the body. And it's like we want to minimize excessive waste of energy. So if we're over-consuming ourselves deep in fears and worries and frustrations, that can occupy the energy that's necessary for good brain function. I hope that makes sense.
In addition to looking at estrogen replacement therapy and lifestyle medicine for mild cognitive decline and preventing Alzheimer's, they're also looking at acupuncture as an adjunctive therapy because the aging population is becoming bigger and so many more people are developing dementia, varying degrees of it, and they're trying to seek out natural, inexpensive therapies to prevent and delay. And they were seeing in this big randomized control trial evaluation, like a meta-analysis in the literature, they looked at 22 studies and the neuroimaging, so like brain scans after acupuncture, and they could see noticeable changes. And as we know, you and I, Mary, know acupuncture can help with stress reduction, like cortisol reduction and increase, endorphins. So pain blocking molecules, which as we age, we'd end up with more inflammation and pain. So there's definitely a connection with those things, but now they're seeing that they actually see changes in brain imaging with acupuncture, which is way cool. So when you're treating yourself as you age to age gracefully, you're not just looking at, these lifestyle medicine, but tools that are effective for, delaying dementia, and acupuncture is something that they're looking at and seeing that on neuroimaging. So that's super cool.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. And here's the thing about acupuncture, and it always cracks me up because it's part of a whole system of medicine. So when people say, well, can acupuncture do this? Can acupuncture do fertility? Can acupuncture help my headaches? Well, the truth is acupuncture is a whole system medicine. So it's whatever is not in balance, it's going to show up in your life as headaches, as cognitive decline, right? So there is a natural decline for sure, hands down, that is a reality. But that said, why don't we slow it down? Why can't we reverse some of the negative aspects? And we have seen, through clinic as well as through research, and as you say, with brain scans even, which is like crazy awesome, that it does work. So, for more, for all of the resources that we've mentioned, go to myfertology.com because it's all there with all the links. And if you like this episode, if you've benefited, please share with everyone you know, because this is important conversation. And I find that women, we kind of suck it up and let's stop that and silliness, and let's learn and share with everyone so that we can all thrive through our seasons of life.
If you like this episode, subscribe to our podcast, like it, and share. And if you have any comments, please share with us how you felt about this episode and let us know if there's anything else you'd like us to chat about.